Okay. I hope I'm audible. Just a minute. Yeah. Do let me know in the chat sections if you can see me correctly and if my voice is also okay and if the screen is also perfect. Yeah, give me an acknowledgement in the chat section if my voice is clear, if you can hear me properly, and if the screen is also fine. Quickly, I'm waiting for the responses so that we can start. And also, if you can hear me properly, you can tell about you which year are you from or which branch are you from. Mm, am I audible, guys? Hello. Can you hear me properly? Oh, okay, okay, okay. I feel my my live chat got stuck. Take just a minute. Now I can read all of your answers. Great, great. Okay, sorry about that delay. I was using a different device to see the chats, but yeah. Chalo, great, great, man, great. Cool, great. BCA first years, ठीक है. Great, man. MCA students are also joining. Great, MTech, AC third year. Okay. First year computer engineering, great, man. ECs are also joining. ECs folks are also joining. Great, cool. Chalo, so just wait. We'll wait for one more minute, right, until 6:05, so that all people can join. And after that, we'll move ahead with our PPTs and move ahead with our agendas. Since our employee grade, we take first year grade. Cool. And also, I hope that you guys are aware about DSA, right? You guys are also aware about C++. There was a session yesterday as well regarding the introduction to C++ and introduction to DSA, right? I am hoping that you have some ideas about that. Yeah, and also if you come across any doubts while I'm explaining, or if you have any doubts, you can ask them in the chat section. I'll take them, right? I'll take them in between, obviously. real-time doubt solution will not be possible. I mean, after I complete one step or after I explain some part, then I'll take up all these doubts in a group and then I'll explain, right? Cool. So yeah, and I am hoping that everyone here is aware about at least one programming language, right? If you are aware about C++, it is a good thing. But if you are not very cool about C++, but you still know any other programming language, that will also be okay, right? Because basically we will be dealing with the logics, we'll be dealing with the data structures, right, and algorithms. So language will not be a much of a barrier. But if you know C++, then it will be a plus point, right? Sure. So cool, sounds good, right? Let's jump into the session, or just a minute. How many participants are there? Okay, decent number of participants are there, right? Now we'll wait for one more minute so that everyone will join because there was a bit of a delay from my side, right? Cool. And also, I mean, are you excited for this event or not? I mean, are you excited for this, second day of the boot camp or not? Right. I hope you are excited because that's why only you have tuned in, right, for the session. So, cool. Okay, so okay, someone don't know C++, they want to learn it from scratch. Okay, that won't be a problem. Yeah, see, this will be a kind of a hands-on session from scratch itself, right? It's not like I'll tell you some, hi-fi things and I'll say, "Kicha, this is over," right? It won't be like that. We'll be covering each and everything in, in steps only, right? Okay, so every thing that I'll tell you to implement, I'll also give you a brief introduction about it as well. Great. Sure. Right, so don't worry about that psycho creations. Yeah. Cool then, right? So let's please suggest C++ project for resumes. Okay, so Isha, you are asking this, right? So C++ में there can be number of projects, right? If you are only making from C++, right? There can be like when we talk about graph or something, right? There are some data types, some data structures and algorithm that will come across later. So you can make maybe visualizations of that, right? Or maybe there is something like there are some problems of that, right? There is some called rat in a maze or some NQs or things like that. So you can make visualization or you can make implement those programs. You can make projects out of that, right? Sure. Cool. Now let's jump into the session quickly, right? And if you come across any doubts, you know what to do, right? You have to write that in the chat section and we'll take it. Sure. So in today's session, what we are covering is we are covering about the loops and patterns, right? In the loops, we'll also be looking at statement as well, right? And we'll also be seeing what is the difference between loops and patterns, right? And how we can implement. And at the end, I hope that if you come across like data structure in an algorithm, or if you tried solving, or if you tried learning any languages or something, you might have come across these problems wherein suppose you'll be given this as output. You'll be said ki acha, theek hai, you have to print this star pattern, right? I hope everyone here might have seen this. If not, that's not an worry, right? We'll see what is it and how we can do that, right? All these things like that, right? And you might have gone through different codes, you might have gone through different YouTube videos or something, and you tried learning solution, you tried cramming these things, right? But at the end of this section, I can guarantee you this, you won't find any difficulty in solving these kinds of pattern, right? You'll get any kind of pattern, not exactly this pattern, but any different pattern that you'll ever come across, you'll be able to solve that easily, right? So yeah, and before going into those patterns, we'll have a discussion about loop statements. Okay, I hope this thing is clear, and yeah, let's move on the next slide, right? So Acha, this is the index. Ki, firstly, we'll be looking at the introduction to loop, and then we'll be looking into what are the break and the continue statements, right? What are, what is break, what is continue, how they are different from each other, what is the working of them, right? We'll see after that. Then there is something called as a switch case, right? So we'll also look into it, what is switch case or what is switch statement. And the end of the day, we'll be practicing some patterns, and after this session, I'll give you some homeworks, right? I'll give you some sample assignments to work on, or sample patterns to work on, and you can work that, right? Chalo. Let's move ahead with the next points. Now, for the loops, let's see what all different loops we have, or basically what all are the loops we have, right? I mean, what basically is a loop, right? So basically, just a minute, let's go back to the, let's go back to this slide. And what do you understand, or what comes to your mind when someone say loop, right? If I say ki, acha, you have to loop this, or your songs are on loop, right? So what does that loop means to you, right? Loop simply means ki, okay, some things are going round by round, or maybe some things are going in a loop, right? Suppose if you if there is one song, if there is two songs, if there is like third song, right? So if I mean by loop is ki, acha, after third song, you won't be there won't be any silence. You'll maybe loop into the first song, or maybe you'll do something else to make this thing in continuity, right? There won't be any end of that, right? Obviously there can be end of a loop, but the genuine thing that comes to your mind, or the first thing that comes to your mind whenever you hear loops is ki, acha, something is going in continuity, right? At some points, if you want to break it, suppose I've been listening song for like 2 hours, 3 hours, right? Now I don't want to listen the song, so what I'll do, I'll break the loop, right? I'll break the loop of the song, right? So this is basically loop, right? Now this is the layman versions of explaining, right? But suppose let's jump into a bit of technical language, right? Suppose maybe we are programming something, right? We are programmers, or we are coders, right? We are coding something, we are doing something, and we want things to go in a loop. Maybe let me give you an example. Suppose if you want to print numbers, right? Suppose if you want to print numbers starting from 1 till n, right? So how will you print that? We'll maybe say cout 1. Maybe then you will say cout 2, right? Don't go at the syntax or the writing, because this is just for the demonstration purpose only, right? And now please don't please don't complain about my writing. What is this writing? I'm not able to understand something, or right? So if you will write then you'll write 3, then you'll in the similar fashion, you can write up till, right? You can write up till 10, right? Yeah, there will be commas. There will be quotes. Obviously, there will be semicolon as well, but yeah, I'm not doing it right now. So this is cool, right? You can print until 10. Again, if I'll say ki, acha, print until 20, you can also do that. But what if I say ki, acha, print until 100, right? So that will be a very tough task for you, right? Although you can do that by simply copy pasting the lines below and then changing the numbers into that. But don't you think that will be a very hectic task, right? Why? Because who will print such numbers? And suppose if we don't have numbers to print until 100, or maybe if we have numbers until 1000, right? So that will be a nightmare for us. So how we can do that is by using loops, right? So with the help of loops, what we can do is, if we are doing any particular statement, right? If there is any particular logic or any particular thing that we want to continue until a stage, right? Suppose if I want to print numbers starting from 1 until 100, right? So I can say at every step what I'm doing is I'm printing a number, right? And until what point I'm doing this? Until I reach 100, right? So this thing can be done using loops, right? And obviously there is a very great advantage of loop, that is you won't be writing those repetitive statement again and again, right? So I hope looping is something clear to you in the technical aspects, right? Sure. So if this is clear, again, at this point, for those of you who have zero idea about loops or how do we implement something, right? Who might be saying, yeah, how is this possible to print 100 numbers using loops and all, right? Don't worry. As we'll move on with the session, I'll write each and everything, and I'll show you the demonstration how we are able to do that, right? So this is the demonstration of the loop. This is the basic definition you can say about the loop is. Now let's see what all different types of loop we have, right? So in loops, first thing is we have a for loop, right? And then we have a while loop, and then we have a do while loop as well, right? So there is a particular syntax of writing a for loop, there is a particular syntax of writing a while loop, and there is a particular syntax of writing do while loop as well, right? And what is the differentiation between them? At which point we use for loop, at which point we use while loop, at which point we use do while loop, right? That we will see. But I hope this introduction is clear to you, right? And till then, let's see if we have any other questions or something. Someone is saying thank you. Okay, good evening. Okay, great. You are awesome. Great. Thanks, Ashutosh, for that. Chalo, ठीक है. So I feel like this is clear to everyone. If you have any minor doubts at that, you can ask. And we are moving forward until this point, right? Chalo, great. Sounds great. Cool. So firstly, we are discussing C++ or loop. One more thing that I would like to acknowledge here is कि when I'm streaming, there is a gap of 15 to 20 seconds, right? So maybe if you ask something and I'll be able to get that out at a delay of something, right? Or maybe if I say something, you'll be able to get that thing after a delay, right? So please bear that, right? Don't think I am ignoring your doubts or something, right? I'll definitely take them. Right. So yeah, C++ में we are looking at the for loop, right? So for loop में the funda is कि whenever you are अच्छा, let's keep this aside. Let's say if I'm looping something, right? So what all thing I'll be required. First thing that I'll be required is कि for which thing I'm looping, right? Things to loop, right? Second thing that I'll write is maybe I'll write conditional conditions, right? What condition? Condition until loop. I mean, until which point I have to loop, right? Third thing is you can say some increment or change or something, right? Increment, or maybe let's not write increment here. Let's write update. Right. So the thing is, suppose if I have given you an example of songs, right? Suppose I'm listening to some songs, right? Maybe there is song 1, then there is song 2, then there is song 3 or something. I only like suppose 3 songs, right? Song number 1, song number 2, song number 3, right? So if I'm looping now, I need to have something to loop. I need to have I have some songs, I have 3 songs, I have 5 songs or something, and I want to loop between them, right? I want to go from first till second, then from second till third, and from third till wapis for first, right? So this is our first thing that we need, which things we want to do. Now the second thing is I obviously cannot listen to songs till infinity, right? I must have a condition okay, I'm allowed to listen the song until like 1 hour or until 2 hours or maybe until I fell asleep, right? So this is the condition. What will happen if you don't give the condition, right? The obvious answer to that is this things will go on till infinity. And suppose if you are writing something on your system and your system is processing some things until infinity, then that is surely a nightmare for your system, right? Why a nightmare? Because you don't want your computer to go until infinity, right? At one point you want, the process is done, now please stop, right? So that is done using giving a condition, right? And please make sure your condition is valid, right? Condition is valid means you give a proper condition, right? What is the how you can check if the condition is valid or not? We will see once we go into the implementation, right? And the third thing is you need to update something, right? Now this thing might not sound relevant in this scenario, right? You might say what is the updation part, right? Do I need to add some songs? Do I need to remove some songs or something, right? So understand it this way suppose if I'm checking one thing, maybe, right? I'll give this example. We'll look into this part once we go into the explanation. Until then, just understand it. If we are checking against one common situation, right? Suppose if I'm trying to print one thing, right? Suppose if I'm trying to print numbers from 1 till 100, right? Or maybe for example, let's say from 1 until 10. So I'll say I'm looping over numbers, right? I'm looping over these variables. Suppose I has value as 1. And I want to loop it from 1 till 10, right? So I'll say loop on I until from 1 until 10. So condition what I'll do is loop until I is less than equals to 10, right? Because I want to print numbers from 1 till 10. Now suppose if this condition is valid, what I'll say print the value of I. I'll say cout I. Now do tell me this, if I don't update my value of I, what will happen? Right, again the condition will be checked again. 1 will be less than equals to 10, again 1 will be printed. Again if I run the loop, again 1 will be printed. So in this scenario my loop will be stuck at one point only, right? I am only checking for one, and until 1 is getting true, because obviously it will get true for an infinite stage, and I'll only be getting one, right? So in this stage what I want is, I want if I have printed 1, what I'll do is I'll update the value of 1 from, I'll update the value of I from 1 to 2, right? Why 2? Because now I want to go to the next part, right? Now I want to go, or now I want to print the next number, right? So I'll do this, right? Suppose if we are on the 2 now, right? What we'll do is we'll check if value of I is less than 10 or not, right? Value of I will become 2 at this point, right? And if 2 is getting less than or equals to 10, what will happen is, okay, just a minute. I feel like this color is relatively less visible, right? Just let's do one thing. Also, don't worry about this point. I'm just explaining in brief. I'll once we move, and once I write the code, I'll explain in detail, right? So once we move with the next part, we'll go with 3, right? Similarly 4, 5 until I reach the point 10, right? So in this point you can see it is unnecessary to update your situation, right? To update your condition maybe, or maybe to update your variable, right? Again, I do not expect you to learn or to get everything that I've taught here, right? I was just giving you an example, right? Now let's quickly move into the syntax, and I believe the best explanation could be when I'm demonstrating something, right? When I'm doing something. So what I'll do is I'll quickly let's remove all of this, and let's go to the code editor quickly, and I'll give you the demo there, right? So what I'll do is I'll open a online CPP editor. Maybe let's go with this point, and let's write something over here, right? So what I'm doing at this point is, these things we don't need, these are taking up some spaces, so let's also keep this aside. Yeah, I am hoping that everyone is clear with this point, right? What is this, what is the syntax of this, what is hash include iostream, what is namespace, and what is int main, right? I'm not going into each step because I feel like this has been discussed already, right? So what we are doing is, we are first of all we'll be writing a comment that for loops in CPP or C++, right? I hope you also know about comments, right? Comments are some statements or some line which you don't want your compiler to run, right? So what I'll do is I'll write for, right? So the syntax of writing a for loop is, you write a for here, right? For, then you open up these parentheses, and at first place what you write is, or maybe let me write a comment here, yeah, just a minute. Yeah, I hope this is visible now, right? So syntax for loop is, how do you write? You write a for, then at first place what you write the initialization, or the variable or the things that you want to loop into, right? Secondly, you separate it with a semicolon, and then you write the condition, right? And after that what you write the updation part, right? And what do I mean by updation, what do I mean by condition, what do I mean by initialization? Let's see one by one, right? So suppose I have a variable, right? Let's do one thing. I have a variable int I, and I have initialized it from 1 itself, right? So okay, I have a variable. Now I want to print until 10. So how will I do that is, I'll say key for I, right? Maybe I'll just write I itself, or maybe if I want to initialize I over here, I can also do that by writing this part, right? I'll cut it from here and I'll write it there, right? So this, my initialization is done, right? And after that what I'll do, I'll write the condition, right? What is the condition? What should be the condition? My I should be less than or equals to 10, right? Why 10? Because I want to print numbers until 10 only. And immediately after that what I'll do is, let's write it this much only, right? And then you'll know the importance of writing updation part. And I'll do is, I'll write I'll print out the value of I, and maybe if I want to give, if I want to enter that in the next line, I'll write endl, right? Endl is for giving a line space, right? So this is a basic thing that I've written, right? This is not the correct way of printing the numbers. Let's quickly do one thing. Let's run it. Now you can see, if you can see this properly, one is getting printed infinite times, right? If you scroll this many number of times, you'll see one is getting printed endless time. So what is this and why is this happening is we have forgot adding a condition, or we have forgot adding a updation part here, right? So if I update key, okay, suppose if I printed one, see it is saying the program cannot, acha, I have to stop this button because this is already running so many times. So I'll write one thing quickly over here. I'll write I plus plus over here, and let's see what will happen. Now let's run this again. Now I hope you can see this point, right? The numbers are getting printed from 1 until 10, right? Now I hope that you know the I hope you know the importance of the updation part, right? So this is the basic syntax of writing for. Now, without wasting much of your time, let's quickly discuss about the syntax of while and do while, right? Because we have many things to do in this session. Now, while, if you want to write syntax for while loop, right? For while loop, how do we write a while loop is, we write a simple while and then we write the condition over here, right? Now, what is the condition? Now, let's try to print numbers from maybe, let's I. Or maybe let's give it another variable, because you might get confused that I is already there, so why we are writing I again, although that is in the file scope. We'll write it here and then we'll say ki while j is less than 10 again, right? And let's remove this part. I'm again commenting this because this part is already done, right? And maybe let's print numbers till 5 only this time, and inside that what I'll do is I'll simply print the value of j this time, right? And now if I want to print them in the same line by just giving a space, I'll give this, and let's run this and let's see if we are successful. Okay. Now you know what is the problem, right? What is the problem? We forgot to update, right? Where to update this is, we can update that, just a minute. Okay, this is a terrible mistake. Please do note that in your mind, whenever you are writing loops or something, you need to update that part, right? So I'll do j plus plus over here, right? So the major difference between writing a for loop and a while loop is you only write the condition in this part, and all these initialization you do above, or maybe you can do that. You do that above or maybe somewhere before using this while loop, and the updation part that you do inside the loop, right? Inside this while part only, right? Please don't do that outside the while loop, right? Else it will not work properly. Now, can you see the difference, right? Now we are able to print numbers from 0 until 4, right? Why 4? I hope you know the answer, because we are going from 0 until the 5, right? If I want to go from 1 until 5, how can I do that? It's basic thing. I'll do array. What is the problem? Yeah, I'll do this and I'll write this over here, and let's see if this prints numbers from 1 or 5 or not. Yeah, now we are getting numbers from 1 until 5. Just a minute. My live chat got freezed. Again, please keep asking your doubts. As soon as I explain the do while loop, then I'll take all your doubts, right? Please don't worry about that at this moment. Okay, so now this is the syntax of while loop, right? Now let's quickly jump in, and now let's see how we can write a do while loop, right? Do while loop is also very similar. Syntax of do while loop is also very similar. The only thing that changes over here is, or the only thing that is different over here is whenever you are writing a do while loop, right? In do while loop, what happens is do while loop may, in every while or for loop, your condition or your loop will not execute until the condition is satisfied, right? Suppose if I write if value of I is greater than or equals to, I'm not audible. Okay, hello. Am I audible properly or not? Okay. I think I'm audible, right? There is a little bit misconception over there. Chalo, let's continue with this part. I was telling about the do while loop, right? So only difference over while loop or for loop or do while loop is in for loop or in while loop, na, we are first of all checking the condition and then only we are executing the statement, right? But do while loop mein what happens is ki I mean, before even checking your condition for first case, one statement will be executed, right? Crystal clear. Okay, thanks, Aniket, for just a minute. Yeah. So in do while loop, suppose if I want to write, let's do one thing, right? Let's do. Achha, by the way, this is the syntax of writing that, right? Writing do while loop. So if I write C out, loop is running, right? Just write it this way, and maybe let's give a different condition at this point, right? Let's say if I initialize int k and I give this a value of 0, right? And now what I'll do is I'll check in the do while loop. I mean, I'll check in the while loop if the k value is greater than or equals to 10, right? Now it is clearly visible that the value of 0, I mean, the value of k is 0, right? Which is not greater than or equals to 10. So if we used to run, I mean, if we try using this command or if we try checking these commands and these conditions in for or while loop, this will not run, right? I'll also give you a demo, but for a moment, let's run this and let's see if this will run or not. I mean, if this will give any result or not. Okay, just a problem. Yeah, I forgot adding these semicolons. My bad, sorry. Yeah, now you can see the answer is different, right? We can see the loop is running, but again, why the loop is running? The condition is not correct, right? The answer to that is key, since do while loop may your anything that you write inside the do section, I mean anything that you write here will run for at least one case, right? For the first case it will run. Now if the condition would have been true, right, what will happen? Now let's check if our value of k is less than equals to 10 or maybe is less than 10, right? Maybe you can write any condition, right? Now something terrible is going to happen, let me tell you. Now you can see these things are going endlessly, right? Why going endlessly? Now you know this, because I forgot to update the value of this, right? So I'll add a loop is running, and inside that I'll first of all give this an endl so that everything we see in the next line, and then I'll write this, right? And if I try this again, now you can see that we are getting this statement 10 times, right? If I scroll back and if you try counting it, this is exactly 10 times, right? So this is about for loop. This is about while loop. Just a minute. Let me uncomment all of these. Right. So this is about the different syntaxes of for loop, while loop, and do while loop, right? And I hope I was successful in explaining you the differences between all of them. Right. Chalo. Let's quickly take up some doubts if you have any, and then we'll move ahead. And the interesting part of the this session is here in this section you'll be definitely be able to print any of the pattern from your end, right? So please stay tuned. And if you are liking it till this point, if you are enjoying attending this session, I'll urge you to maybe you can like this session, or maybe you can share it with your friends, or maybe you can comment the best part, right? So that we'll also feel motivated, just like you. Let's quickly head over to the chat section and let's see if you have any doubts or not. Okay, good evening messages are there. Then we have attendance link. Okay, attendance link will be shared later. Then the PPT, okay, PPT will also be taken care by the team. Yes, audible. Yeah, you'll get a certificate at the end of this, jump in with you guys on that. So this is a certificate course. Can I jump in? Okay, I didn't got it properly, right? I think yeah, someone from the team will answer you that. I mean, any questions till this point? I mean, whatever I'm teaching, whatever I'm talking about for loop, while loop, and do while loop, right? And if there is no question, if you are enjoying or if you are if these things are crystal clear to you, then you can also let me know. Okay, we are learning these things or we are getting these things, right? So that we can move on quickly and we can move on with the confidence that you guys are getting something, right? Chalo, quickly give me the answer so that we can move with the next part. Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you the simpler, what do you say, simpler pattern first, and then about you're talking about Pascal triangles, or you're talking about diamonds, or you're talking about different types of other patterns. Then you will be easily able to create any of the such patterns, right? Don't worry about that. Okay, if this thing is clear, I'm hoping that if this thing is clear to everyone. So let's move with the next part, right? The next part is okay, while loop. Now you know how it is used. Do while loop you also know, right, how it is used. Chalo, cool man. Okay, now let's look at some interesting points, right? That is a break statement and a continuous statement, right? This is a very important thing, and this thing is very, this thing is something that many people get confused with, right? Okay, so some more example of do while loop, right? So do while loop, mein na, see you. I think if you know about while loop, na, then do while loop is nothing much to worry about, right? In while loop or in for loop, what's happening is ki we are first of all just checking the condition, and then we are printing those statements. But in do while loop, what is happening is ki we are first of all executing the first statement, right? Executing the things whatever is written inside this, and then we are checking for the next round, right? No, that won't be a much problem, if you have not attended the first lecture. You can watch that in the YouTube itself. It is available, right? So, I was explaining about do while loop, right? So, all it's exactly similar like while loop, but just that key first statement will be executed by default for the first time, right? After that, your condition will be checked, right? Chalo. Now let's jump over to let's create a new file, right? Because okay, how do I create a new file from here? Just a minute. Yeah, I'll create a new file and I'll call it break. Maybe statements CSS. CPP. Chalo. Now inside this, what will happen is we'll copy the boilerplate code because I don't want to write it from scratch every time. Right, inside it, what we'll write is we'll write a return 0 as usual, and we'll close it. Chalo. Right. Now, what basically these for loops or what basically these continue and break does is, let's explain this with an help of an example. I'll say I equals to 0, then I say I less than equals to 5 again. And I'll say I plus plus. That's it. Right, and inside it, now if I want to print numbers, right? Maybe if I want to print the value of I, again, the way that we were doing is, but there's one catch, right? Suppose if I only want to print the numbers until I reach a certain point, or suppose if I want I can go until 5, but suppose if at any point, maybe I found a number, or maybe I found a particular condition that I want to go until which, what I can do is I can say if maybe the I value is equals to 3, right? Immediately when I reach the value of immediately when I reach the number I equals to 3, I want to break out of the loop, right? Breaking out of the loop means I don't want to run it further, right? I have done this, and now I can come out of that is I can simply write break after this point, right? If I equals to 3, then we'll break out of it, right? Now let's run it and let's see what is the answer that we are getting. Okay, just 1 minute. Oh, okay, acha, I think this is happening because of this thing. Just a minute. Let's rename it to main itself, or maybe let's see. This is a proper file error, right? Not any syntax error. Or maybe let's open this online again in another tab. Yeah, because why is this happening is a different situation. Or maybe you can rename it as okay, now let's run it here and let's see. Now you can see one interesting fact over here, right? See, this was the code that I was writing. Okay, so yeah, Now you can see that only until 1, 2, 0, 1 and 2 we are printing. Why not after that? See, the condition is until 5, right? But why not until 5? Because immediately once we reach at this situation where value of I is 3, we'll be breaking out of the loop, right? So this is what can be done using a break statement, right? I hope everyone is clear with this point. Now, if break is very, very clear, now there is one again similar thing to that. That is called as a continue statement, right? Now, let's see what is the difference between continue statement. If I write continue statement over here, then there will be a minor change, right? What minor change? In break, what used to happen is immediately once we reach or once we encounter a break statement, we used to come out of that loop. But if we write a continue statement here, what will happen is it will not come out of the loop, but it will skip the current iteration, right? Let me write a comment for that. Continue statement will skip the current iteration, right? So now let's run it, and now let's see if we can see the difference or not, right? Now you can see the difference, right? We are printing 0, 1, 2, and then not 4 but 4 and 5, right? Why this is happening? Because immediately once we reach the situation where value of I is 3, we'll be continuing that, right? Continuing that means ki, acha, skip this part. I mean, skip everything that is remaining until this line. I mean, if you write anything after this point, right? If you write endless thing, if you write continue, hello, we have reached here, anything, right? That will be skipped, and the loop will be started from the next point, right? From the next point means ki the value will be updated to 4, and then the whole loop will be run again, right? I hope this part is also clear, the differentiation between continue statement and the break statement, right? Chalo. Please do give a thumbs up, or please do let me know if this thing is clear, so that I can know ki acha, anything that I'm explaining is making sense to you. Chalo. If this thing is very, very clear to you, now we can move with the next part, that is the switch statements, right? So with the switch statements, how are these different, and you know what these switch statement do for us is ki whenever we are you know about if and else, right? Ki you'll check if you have any variables or if you have any condition, you'll check ki, again let me open another online GDB compiler, and I'll give you the demonstration over there. Chalo. And also I would like to say this again, if you are enjoying anything or if you are learning anything new from here, you can consider subscribing to this channel, and you can consider liking this video as well, right? Chalo. So after that, what we are having is we are having switch statements, right? So switch statements, what they are I mean, what they do is key depending upon the condition that you have, right? Maybe if you want to check, let's have this one situation, maybe let's say you can see in this demonstration, right? Where is the demonstration? Yeah, you can see that if we have these values over here, if we write maybe in day number, and if I write, see, suppose what day is today, right? It is Tuesday today, right? So Tuesday means day 2. Maybe if you want to call it a day 3, it's okay for you. But now if I want to judge upon that situation, ki just let me write that first, and then I'll be able to give you a better understanding after that. Yeah, switch day mein. Now things are done using cases over here, right? See out, write Monday. It's a Monday, right? And I'll write one additional thing over here, right? Break. If not, don't worry, I'll make sure that you know this by the end of this session. I'm very lazy to write these things again and again, so that is why I'm copying this, because we'll write those many things. Chalo, so I'll write a case over 2, I'll write case is 3, then I'll write case is 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? And let's remove this because 7 days are already done, right? We have only 7 days, not 8 or 10 days. Monday ki jagah we are using Tuesday, Tuesday, sorry about that spelling. Tuesday, Wednesday, sorry if I, misspell anything or what, because I'm very poor with spellings. STH RUSDAY. Right, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. Since it's a weekend, right? So, oh, sorry, Friday ke baad we have Saturday. Saturday, and again, since weekends are for the enjoyment purpose, we'll write a Google message as well. Right. So this is what we have done. Right. I have written a very simple syntax of that, of switch cases. Right. We have this. Right. Now, what we are doing is we have made a switch case over there. Switch case me, you know about if and else, right? So switch case works almost exactly the same way, right? If and else. Suppose if the case is 1, right? Case means if the value of day number is 1, then this statement will execute, right? If this value of day number is true, then this statement will execute. If the value of day number is 3, then this statement will execute, right? So depending upon this, right? And now you know this variable has a 2 value. So if I print this, I mean, if I run this, what will be the answer according to you? The answer is it's a Tuesday, right? Why Tuesday? Because not because it's a Tuesday, but because we have given the value as 2, right? What happen if I give this a value 7, right? Let's try that and let's see if we are able to get our desired output or not. Right, now you can see that we are getting the desired output, right? That is, okay, we are going to get this. Ooh, it's a Sunday, right? So this is possible with the switch cases, right? Switch cases means key depending upon the cases that you have, depending upon the value that your variable A has, you will be able to print a particular statement, right? Now there, these cases might be clear to you. Case 1, case 2, 3 means key whatever value this number is having. But what is the use of writing a break statement, right? So let me give you an example, right? For a moment, let's remove this break statement from line number 4 and let's give this a value, I mean for case number 4, and let's try running it now, right? And let's see if we'll come across any problem or not, right? You'll find out that, there is one problem, right? One problem just happened. If we are trying to run on case number 4, just a minute. If you are trying to run on this case number 4, right? Which is, it's a Thursday, but immediately it will run the next statement as well, right? Right? Why it is happening so? I hope you are able to predict this, right? Why it is happening? Because we have skipped a break from here. So if you are writing, please keep this in mind. Whenever you are writing a switch case, you have to make sure that you write a break statement after every case, right? Why? Because you want to break out of that switch case once your condition is satisfied, right? You don't want to go to the next part. This is a, thing that you need to keep in your mind whenever you are dealing with the switch cases, right? So yeah, this is it. Also, there is one more thing, additional thing is that if you don't press anything, I mean, if the value is not in, right, see out, not a valid day. Valid day. Right. Suppose if by chance someone has, messed up with this value and maybe the day numbers we are giving is, maybe let's give a 12, right? Since 12 is not a day number, what I'll do is, in this scenario, what will happen? You'll get a okay. This point is missing. Now you can see the output is not a valid day, right? Because whatever you write, I mean, whatever is the value instead of this, like apart from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 or 7, whatever cases you have written here, this thing will run in by default, right? So I hope this statement, switch statement is also very, very clear to you by this point, all right? So everyone, is this making sense to you? I mean, all these switch statements, all these break, continue, and for, while, do, while, right? I'm hoping that it is making sense. If you are coming across any doubt, right, any simple to simple doubt, you can feel free to ask that in comment section, and trust me, no one will feel like, no one will say, how dumb is this kid, right? If he is not, or if he is or she is not getting that thing, right? Please don't feel that, and I'll answer that. Now, if these things are very, very clear, like all these loops, the basics of loop, all these statements and all, right? All these switch statement is also clear. Now we are ready to go with the patterns, right? With the patterns, what do I mean by pattern, right? Pattern you might have come across these things. Suppose print this star pattern, print this rectangular box, print this full pyramid, or maybe someone was asking about the Pascal triangle, right? So how we can do that, right? So I have come across Yeah, okay. Sorry. Let's quickly wrap it up because I've took much of the time. So don't worry, I'll make sure that you understand this properly. Chalo. Now let me show you one thing. I'll write this very quickly, right? Let's start with the very basic thing, right? The simplest pattern that you can come across is what? The simplest pattern that you can ever come across is will be, yeah. Suppose you are making this statement. I mean, you are consider these as stars, right? Suppose what if you have to print these, square stars? So this is the simplest version that you can come across. Now let's start with the simplest version, right? Okay, suppose if I want to print this, how will I print this? See, whatever I'm teaching you now, there is a particular format of that. Once you get this format, then you will be able to make any pattern out of it. Right now, let's see what is that pattern. So whenever you are making these, the first thing that you will do is you'll enclose this pattern inside a box, right? You'll add this section over here, right? Rows and columns, and you'll start giving this a number, right? What number? This is column number 1, this is column number 2, this is column number 3, row number 1, row number 2, row number 3, right? So the first step is tabularize them, right? Give them the boxes, right? Don't, on your local system, on your paper or pen, do it, right? Not like you'll start doing it in the compiler itself or in the workspace, right? So once you are done that, right? First step is done. Tabularize it and label it. Tabularize and label. Label as in numbers, right? Second step, what you'll do is you'll try to find the connection over the rows and column number, right? Row and columns may you can easily find that for every row, how many rows are there and how many columns are there, right? There are 3 rows and 3 columns, right? Cool. Once we have 3 rows and 3 columns, then at the next step, what we'll do is we'll try to get the logic between rows and columns, right? So you can say that for every row, print calls from 1 till 3. What do I mean by that is, suppose we are in the first row. First row, we are starting from 1 and we are printing till the last column, right? For the second row, we are starting from first and we are ending till 3. Similar goes for the third row as well, right? So, yeah, exactly. We'll be using a nested loop, right? So I'll quickly jump over and I'll see, I'll let you know how is this done. See, whatever I'm writing first of all is the basic template for every pattern that you'll come across, right? Obviously, you'll have to do quite modification, some simple modification if you want to make any complex pattern or something. I'll say, acha, see, one thing will be there. Int n will take, or maybe we can say that, let's take it n only. Right, so n is the number of rows and columns that you'll have, right? Since in this situation you can see that number of rows and number of columns are exactly the same, so that is why I have only took n and I have took it as 3, right? Because we are number of columns and number of rows are 3 only, right? So if you have different columns and if you have different number of rows, right, so then you can take 2 variables, right? Maybe n or m, but since we have the same variable, so I'll do this, then I'll quickly do this because we are running late on time. Because I wasted, or maybe I've invested much of the time in discussing some other things from 0, or maybe start from 1, right? Why 1? Because we have labeled the columns, or we have labeled them accordingly, and we'll say, acha, till n also, right? And I'll write j++. Cool, right? So now what this will do is, first of all, this is a nested loop, right? Nested loop means there is another loop inside another loop, and what will happen is with the outer loop, what we are doing is we are iterating over the rows, right? This is for, let me quickly iteration over the rows, right? And for the inner loop, what the inner loop is doing is iteration over columns, right? So now you can understand that whenever we are iterating, if the value of I is in range from is less than what? Less than or equals to n, no, not exactly this, but if the value of column is less than equals to n, what we'll do? We'll simply print, we'll simply print the stars, right? Isn't it? We'll simply print out the star, right? I hope this thing is making sense, right? What we are doing is we are checking key from the first column itself until the last column, right? If the value is in range, right? What in range? Although the value will always be in range. Why in always in range? Because the outer loop is making sure that value will always remain in range, right? And if I do that, let's check it, right? Although this will not print the exact correct answer, right? Why I will not print the answer, I'll tell you in a moment, but let's print it now and let's see what would be the problem, right? Now you can see that there is a problem, right? What is the problem? The pattern is not correct, right? Why not correct? If you 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, right? The total numbers of stars are correct, but the stars are not coming in the next line, right? What we want, immediately after one row is completed, immediately after one column is filled, I mean one row is filled, we want a space, we want a next line. So how we can do that? We can immediately come out of that loop and we can print a endel over here, right? If I press enter now boom, is this thing exactly the similar what we what we tried manipulating over here, right? I hope you might have got an idea, right? How it is happening. Now if you come, I mean if you know this example, or if you come across this, I mean if this thing is very very clear to you, then almost every pattern is will sound a very easy peasy for you, right? You will not find any problem with that. Okay, let's quickly see if you have any doubts with that. Yeah, so if you have any doubts with that now, please ask, and then I'll explain key about the next pattern. Right, so this is the first pattern, right? Let's quickly look into the next pattern that we are having. Chalo. Sorry about delaying this, because I took a little more time than expected. But the thing is, I hope you are getting whatever I'm telling. This is the new pattern, right, that we have. Right, now what we are doing is, we'll again first of all tabularize it. Why we are tabularizing it? Because we can find the relation between rows and columns. Sorry for this bad handwriting and bad drawing again. I'm not very good at this. I'll write 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, right? I've named all these rows and column accordingly. Now if you remember, right, this thing is this thing is slightly different than the first case, right? Why different? Because now you can see that we are not printing every column, right? You can see this column is not printed, this column is not printed, this column is not printed, again this column is not printed, this is not printed, and this is not printed. So what we will do is, we'll first of all, if you look at this very closely, you'll find a similar pattern, right? What pattern? Ki at row number I, only till ith column is printed. Or maybe you can say filled, right? What I mean by that is ki, suppose at row number 1, only until one point, I mean only until first column we have filled it, right? We have filled the stars. And if the row number is 2, then only until the second column we have filled that, right? If the column number is 3, only until third column, I mean if the row number is 3, then only until the third column we have filled that, right? If the row number is 4, then only until fourth column we have filled it, right? So this becomes very easy now. Now we will make one small change with that, I mean with our existing code, and we'll be able to do that, right? So instead of writing this n over here, what we'll write is, we'll write I, right? Why we are writing over I here is, suppose j will be for the, if you dry run this, right? If you dry run this, you'll find out ki, acha, if the row number is 1, what we'll go is, we'll go into the column and we will go we'll go inside the column and we'll check if the value of j is 1, right? J is 1 and also I is also 1. So we'll print a star over here. Now, if the value of j becomes 2, right? And since 2 is not smaller than I means 1, right? So then this thing will not print, and we'll come out of the loop. Until this loop is printed, we'll come out of it, and after that we'll have an end of line. We'll print a new line, and then we'll start printing this again, right? Let's see this in action, and then you'll understand, right? Now you can see that this thing is working perfectly fine. Just a minute, there is some problem with live chat. Yeah. Chalo. Now let's quickly, I mean, if you don't believe me, if you feel like, yeah, I'm doing this for 3 number only, let's print it till 5, right? And let's see if this works similar way or not. Now you can see that this is again working similarly for 5 as well. Again, try giving any random number, this will again print the same value, right? So now I think you are getting how simple is that. And now let's quickly I mean, let's move into a bit of the complex section. Again, we have a very less time. I'll take 5 more minutes, right? I know that you are, that is already late, but just 5 more minutes, and I'll guarantee you if these things will be clear to you, right? Acha, one more thing you can do is now if you want to print a hollow, hollow rectangle or hollow star, you can also do that, right? How you can do that is again, I'll not take this example, or let's take it very quickly so that you understand. Let's print a hollow square. This, and this, right? This is a hollow square, right? If you want to print it, what is the case over here, right? The case over here is, if you again tabularize it quickly, if you write 1 2 3 1 2 3 over here, now you can see that if the column number, I mean, if the row number is first as in if the row is first, or if the row number is last means if the row number is n, right? Only in those situations what we'll do is we'll start from the 0th column, I mean, we'll start from the first column and we'll print until the last column, right? And else what we'll do is, if the column number is 1 bole to starting, right? And the last column, only in those situations we'll print these values, right? You can see that in this situation, since the row number is not first and since the row number is also not the last, in this situation what we'll do is we'll only print the first column and we'll only print the last column, right? If I'll I mean, let's take a bigger example, then you'll understand it. 3 4. Right, now you can see that only in the first column, I mean, only in the first row or in the last row, we are filling every column. But in any other row, what we are doing is we are filling the first column and we are filling the last column, right? So the condition becomes very, very simple now. What is the condition will become? We'll say if I equals 1 bole to the first column we are having, right? Or I becomes last bole to the value of I becomes n. Or we can say if the j is 1, right? J equals 1, the first column, or if j becomes what? If j becomes n, right? So in all these situations we'll do this, and else there is one more thing that we need to do, right? So now you can see that there is some gap in between, right? So how we can get that gap is, see, if these are not the situation that we are doing, is we can do one more thing. We can write else situation, and since we also want the spaces in between, what we'll do, we'll write space in between, right? And let's quickly run this and let's see if this is working perfectly or not. Now you can see this is running exactly the way that we want it to run, right? Yeah, thanks thanks Kaushik. I really hope that you, I mean, it's really good that you got something out of this session, right? Again, I'll take 2-3 more minutes to complete that last part, right? That is a bit of tricky one, right? Again, all those Pascal triangles and all that you'll be able to do once you get this triangle, right? This is a very important one and this is a very tricky one also. Please bear with me for like 5-6 more minutes, and then I'll assure ki you'll get this, right? So this session is all, I mean, this triangle is also clear. Now let's take the, let's take the elephant in the room, right? Let's tackle this difficult one, right? So again, I want your utmost attention over this because this is a bit of a tricky one. So I'll quickly make this star. I'll write 1 star, then I'll write 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, right? I hope just a minute, let's make it again. Just a minute. I feel like there is something wrong. Let's make another one because those were not intended properly, right? 1 2 3 1 5. Right, now this looks some decent one. I mean, this looks somewhat decent. Now let's try to tackle this. Let's stabilize it. Please bear with me for a little more minutes and we will be done. Please don't make fun of my drawing. Very poor at this. Chalo, cool, right? Let's start numbering it. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Cool. Chalo. Now, the first thing is we have done with the tabularization form, right? The second thing is, see, if you remember in the last last 2 or 3 pattern that we were doing is, the row numbers and the column numbers used to be similar, right? Why similar? Because we were making a square pattern before that, right? Now this is not a square pattern, right? If you look closely, the row numbers is 4 and the column numbers are 7 over here, right? So can you find a relation over the row numbers and column numbers, right? If you look at if you look very closely into this, you'll be able to find a relation over here, right? Let's start with let's suppose if we have only 2 rows. So in 2 rows, the row number, let's write row and let's write column. If the number of rows were 2, what will be the total number of column? 3, right? If the row number is 3, what is the total number of column? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5. If the row number, if the total number of rows are 4, then total number of columns will be 7, right? If total number is 5, then I assure that the number will be 5, right? So what is the relation? So obviously the relation over here is key the row number. Just a minute, let me write that over here. Key the number of columns are always equals to 2 times number of rows minus 1, right? Apply this apply this formula over here, right? If you quickly see, 2 times 4 is 8, minus 1 is 7, 2 times 5 is 10, minus 1 is 9, 2 times 3 is 6, minus 1 is 5, 2 times 2 is 4, minus 1 is 3, right? So I hope this formula is clear, right? Now let's make the first adjustment first of all, right? Because if I'll make all these adjustments at a one, then you'll get confused. So instead of writing n over here, what we'll write? We'll write 2 times n minus 1, right? Now you know why we are writing this, right? Because why? Because column numbers are getting increased by a certain number, right? Now if this thing is clear, now let's see what is the relation of these columns getting printed. Just a minute. Let me zoom out this. I'm not able to zoom out it at this moment, but yeah, let's for a moment write it over here. Let's take another pen. Now let's understand this, right? Suppose let's write row over here again and let's write column over here. Right, this is done. Now if you try to find a link at row number 1, what is happening is only column number 4 is getting printed. At row number 2, what is happening is only column number 3, 4 and 5 is getting printed. At row number 3, what is happening? Only column number 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 are getting printed. At column number 4, what is happening? Just a minute, let's take this. At row number 4, what is happening is just a minute, 1 and until 7 are getting printed, right? I hope this relation is you are able to comprehend from the above example, right? At row number 1, 4 is getting printed, 2 these all are printing and these all are printing, right? Now can you find a relation between them? Initially what we were doing is for the row number, whatever was the row number, we are printing from 1 until that number only, right? If you remember the half pyramid, right? If I talk about this only, at row number 1 only 1 column is getting printed. At row number 2, only 2 columns were getting printed. Or at column number 3, only 3 columns were getting printed, right? And all these columns were starting from 1 and was going until the column number, right? But in this situation, if you look very, very closely, right? I'm not taking much of the time to, let you guys guess because we are already running late of time. So let me give you a short hint over this. Or what if I tell you, if you remember at row number, for every row, what is happening, that n minus I starting from n minus y, not exactly n minus y, but there is a little adjustment with it. If I do this n plus 1 minus I, and if I go until n minus 1 plus I, right? We are printing every column that is in the range of n plus 1 minus I until n minus 1 plus I, right? If you look at very closely, right? I mean, now you will say, how do I know how is this printing? I mean, how did you get this in mind? N plus 1 minus I will be there, right? See, this is very simple. If you try to decode this, now you'll obviously get this answer. Since we don't have very much time, so that is why I've directly written it over here, right? So, what is n, right? In this situation, n is 4, right? So, if you remember, I mean, if you try to implement it over here, what will happen is, just a minute, 4 plus 1 minus I is what? I is 1, right? In this situation, you'll say only 4 is getting printed. Fourth number is printed, right? If you find the upper bound of this, right? Upper bound, if you try this value as well, you'll find out that 4 minus 1 plus 1. Again, that will be cancelled, and only you can say numbers from column number from 4 until 4 is getting printed, right? That means only 4 is getting printed. If you implement it here, right, what will be the answer? You'll say कि if you put 4 plus 1 minus I बोले तो 2, right? Why? Because I is 2 over here. Now if you try to solve it, you'll get what? You'll get 3 up as the lower bound, and if you try for the upper bound, what you'll get 4 minus 1 plus 2, right? You'll get what? You'll get 5 over here, right? So now you can see that lower bound is 3 and upper bound is 5. Again, if you go at this example, I'll do it here. N that is 4, right? 4 plus 1 minus 3. Why 3? Because I value is 3. Upper bound, lower bound is what? 4 plus 1, 5 minus 3 is what? 2, right? And if you try for the upper bound is what? 4 minus 1 plus 3. 4 minus 1 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, right? So now you can see that starting from 2 until 6, these values are getting printed, right? Again, if you go for fourth row, if you try this, you'll again come off the lower bound is 1 and the upper bound is 7, right? So in this situation, what we can do is, we'll first of all find out this zone. We'll find out this zone, this upper bound and lower bound. Just a minute. I know I'm speaking very fastly. I'm not giving you chances to ask your doubt or something. But see, the thing is we have to wrap up very quickly. So you can say that lower bound of any column, lower bound at any row is what? N plus 1 minus this, and upper bound is N minus 1 plus I. We have to print all these columns in any row which comes under this range, right? Starting from this till this, right? Let me quickly write that. Let's quickly write that, and I'll first of all show you the demonstration. Then only, don't worry, I'll take all of your doubts, right? It's not like I'm going anywhere, right? But just that for those of you who are just wanting to leave, I'm doing this. See, what is our column bound? We are saying if the value of j is less than, or if it is what do you say, if it is greater than or equals to the lower bound, right? It has to be greater than the lower bound, na? Tabhi to we will be able to go from lower bound until the upper bound. So it has to be greater than or equals to n plus I, n plus 1 it was there, right? N plus 1 minus, yeah, lower bound was n plus 1 minus I, n plus 1 minus I, and we are writing and over here. Why? Because we also want to check if this is less than or equals to. Why less than equals to? Because this is our upper bound. We don't want to go beyond that. So I'll write n minus 1 plus I, right? And if this is the situation, then only what we are doing is we are printing the star, and this is not, and if this is not the situation, what we are doing is we are printing the space, right? Let's quickly run this and let's see if the answer is desirable or not, right? Then only we'll we'll be able to comprehend. Now boom, right? You can see we are having a perfect star. We are having a perfect pattern over here, right? Now you might say, Acha, this is something scripted, right? Let's take up any big number, or let's take any smaller number, right? Let's do this and let's run it. Now you can see, just a minute. Now you can see this is again perfectly printed, right? So the key over here is using those relation between rows and columns, we were finally able to print it, right? Now I know that I've explained this in a very much hurry and this need a special attention. So let's quickly jump over to your questions or something, and then I'll repeat, or maybe depending upon your queries, then I'll repeat it. You are using if statement, isn't it completely useless? Why it is completely useless. Okay, you might be saying for the first cases, right? I mean, when I was making a simple square box, or when I was making a simple, what do you say, a normal one-sided pyramid, right? But in that cases, that might be useless. But see, I was telling you the basic skeletal for every point. I mean, for every pattern, right? So that is why I have kept it there. Okay. Now, instead of using it, we get right condition for inside loop. Yeah, thanks for today. You have made it easy. Thanks, man. Then we have just a minute. Then we have, yeah, it is very nice. Things better than ठीक है सर, अगर हमें भूला जा रहा है एक से सात तक स्पेलिंग शुरू करो स्विच से तो करेंगे, कैसे करेंगे सर? अगर एक भी बार पुट कर रहे हैं तो उसका स्पेल आई डिडंट गॉट योर क्वेश्चन मुजमिल, कैन यू रिपीट दैट? हाय सर, ठीक है, कैन यू प्लीज रिपीट इट? गुड इवनिंग, गुड इवनिंग. Understanding the last pattern, sir. Today's topic is very much understanding and clear also. Thank you for that. A hint about tomorrow's topic. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So see, some people are saying repeat it, right? Because I've explained this in a hurry. So I am repeating it. If you have any doubts, then I hope this will be cleared. Chalo. So see, what I was saying is, just a minute. I am not able to zoom out of it. This problem. Why am I not able to zoom out of it now? Just a minute, yaar. There is something wrong with my trackpad now. Just a minute, just a minute. Let me get over my mouse. Don't worry, you'll get this clear, man. See, I hope that the skeleton is clear to everyone, right? The skeleton is, we'll write two for loops. One is for the one is for the rows and one is for the column, right? Once you write all these things, what we will do is, my mouse also not working. What is the problem? Okay. Sorry about this, man. Just a minute. Yeah, cool. Cool. Chalo. Now let me explain this. Okay. Suppose what was the problem, right? Now what is the general trend of solving this, right? The first thing is whatever pattern you have, write that pattern, tabularize it, right? Tabularize it in rows and column and give it a number, right? Why we are giving it a number? Because then only we will be able to track the relation between rows and columns, right? Then only we will understand at what row what columns should be printed, right? So if you look at it very closely, even before that, the first thing that you have to do is you have to find a relation between the row number and the column number, right? So, yeah, you have to do is you have to find the relation between row number and column number. Once you get that relation, right, in this situation you can clearly find out that if the row number was 1, the total number of column were 3. If the row number was 3, the total number was 5, right? So what is the relation between row number and column number? The total relation is 2 times the row minus 1, right? If you put this value and you'll get the total number of columns that will be there. So this was the first adjustment that we did, right? After that, what happened was now since you have done that, right, now you have the basic skeleton, but you need to figure out which columns to print. I mean, which columns to fill that star value with and which columns to give us normal space value, right? So if you just map these value, right, for the row number 1 we are only printing the 4th column. For the row number 2, what we are doing is we are printing 3rd, 4th and 5th column. If we are for the row number 3, what we are doing is we are printing 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th column, right? Similarly, for the 4th column, what we are doing is we are printing from 1 until 7, right? I mean, we are printing all the columns. So now what we cannot just get these numbers hard coded and we can print it, right? Because the numbers could be different. So what we are doing is we are finding a relation between which columns to print. So just think it by simple hit and trial method, right? Hit and trial method में if you try कि see if the column number is 3, right, you can see that the total number of rows that we have are 4, right? And if you see कि if we start reducing I from it, right, that means 4 में से the column number is 3 over here, right? So if I say कि if I reduce this, I'll get 1, but I'm not starting from 1 itself, right? I'm starting from 2. So what we can do is we can fix it and we can say, Acha, let's do one thing. Let's start from n plus 1 minus I, right? And let's see if this fits for everyone or not, right? For column number 4, you can see the total number is 4. 4 plus 1 minus 4 is what? We are starting from 1, right? For row number 2, what we are doing is n again is 4 plus 1 minus 2, right? Why 2? Because column number is 2 is this at this point, right? 4 plus 1 is 5, 5 minus 2 is 3. So we are starting from 3, right? This is also working perfectly. If we look for 1, you'll also get that for 1, 4 plus 1 minus 1, you'll get 4, right? So we are starting from these values, right? So we have found the lower bound of it, right? From which column we should start printing, right? And if you look, we are going from a lower bound until a upper bound, and we are printing all values which comes inside it. I mean, within this range, right? So lower band we have find out, right? Lower band, how we have found out? Lower band is n minus 1 plus 1, right? In the similar way, if you hit and try and if you find out, you'll get that upper bound will always be n minus 1 plus 1, right? Why it will be this, you'll again have to hit and run, and then you have to find out this logic, right? So if you do it, I mean, if you again check it, I'm not checking it because again we are running late on time. So if you do it properly, then you'll find all the upper bounds will be this way only, right? And since we have found out what are the upper bounds and lower bounds, what we can do, we can clearly write that over here. If our value, if our j is for column, right? If our j value is greater than lower bound and is less than upper bound, we will print a star, else we are printing a normal space, right? So with this value, you can do? You can print the pattern that you want to print, right? I hope this is clear to everyone. And also, see, right now we are already running very, very late. If you come across any doubts or all your questions, we'll tackle in tomorrow's class, right? I know you will have lots of questions, many number of questions that we will take in tomorrow's class, right? Because yeah, we are pretty late. Chalo, right? So all these syntax and all, yeah, I know, Ramia, I'm teaching at a very faster pace, but yeah, for this session we can accommodate it. From the next session, I'll keep this in mind and we'll get things covered in a relatively medium pace, right? Chalo. So I'm ending the stream right now, right? And any other doubts or something, right, we'll take in the next class. I know you'll have many doubts, but please go through this session once again after this will be available on the YouTube, and come across this, and in the next class, what we'll do is we'll take any doubts if you have. Okay, sure, cool. So that's it for today's session, and we'll meet in tomorrow's, and we'll continue forward, right? Yeah, diamond print we'll also see, man, don't worry about that. Chalo, cool, bye bye.